What's up everybody, welcome back to another episode of Outlawed Motors. Today we are talking about upgrading the Mini's coolant system and getting rid of these garbage OEM coolant pipes because they're garbage and I don't like them. So if you're familiar with this Mini build so far, you know that the whole front of this engine bay has been stripped and removed and pretty much everything was replaced. And one of the major things that I wanted to address on this engine was its cooling system, because this Mini's cooling system is garbage. It honestly is a piece of crap. One major reason is because the radiator is pretty much impossible to upgrade unless you want to survive without air conditioning, because there's pretty much no room to expand on it. Now I concede that there is very little that you can do to improve the cooling system without an extensive amount of work. One of the things you can do to reduce the risks of something going wrong with your cooling system is replacing those aging OEM hoses that your coolant is running through. Over time, they get old, they crack, they kind of eventually are going to fail. And so since I was in there, I figured it was a good time to replace all of the OEM coolant lines with Samco's awesome silicone hoses. Now, apart from obviously blinging up your engine bay, which I'm not gonna hate because it does look cool, is that they do handle a lot more pressure and they are far less likely to fail because they are far better built. They have higher tolerances, and so therefore if you're running an aftermarket expansion tank, you could put a higher pressure release cap on your expansion tank like this one here that can take 18 psi versus I think the stock 15 psi. So the higher the pressure in the coolant system, the higher the boiling point. So you can technically improve your coolant system by that just a little bit. There's a great spot to drain the coolant right from here. There's just a clamp that you can remove, and obviously remove the cap on the expansion tank to make sure that you have proper flow so that it can come out. Now it should go without saying, don't leave antifreeze out. Take it to a proper hazardous facility, because antifreeze is extremely deadly to animals, as well as they think it tastes sweet, I think. I don't know how we know that, but I guess they like the taste of it. Two essential tools you will need to change all your coolant lines to the upgraded Samco Silicone hoses is a pair of needle nose pliers, as well as one of these fancy pipe releasers. And I would highly recommend you getting one of these. They are incredibly useful. I used this so many times, allows you to get into really awkward angle. This isn't always an ideal solution. Needle nose pliers sometimes are the best at trying to kind of weasel something in, but these have been a great tool in helping hold open a butterfly clamp, I think that's what it's called, so that you can shove the pipe onto the plastic fitting and then seal it back up. Without this, I would say it's almost impossible to actually do that on this car. It's not fun when you're trying to get this shit started. It's like I'm working on somebody's like intestines. All the grossness, especially with where the thermostat housing is and where all those hoses come into the thermostat housing, you pretty much need one of these. If the thermostat housing is off, it makes it a very easy job. It's pretty much matching shapes and sizes of the OEM hoses with the Samco hoses, and there will be no mystery because they are a perfect fit. And what I would recommend is replace one by one, making sure that the shape and the angle is matched perfectly. Remove one, replace that, then move on to the next one. And I mean, eventually you'll be done. Make sure that you replace the gasket if you're replacing the thermostat housing, because those things are cheap, and I mean, you don't want your coolant leaking like it did for me. If the radiator is off already, it's good to do a visual inspection to make sure there's no holes or anywhere where the radiator could leak, and to clean up any debris or rocks that have collected over the years. Just use some compressed air, but make sure that you're not using too high of a pressure, as you don't want to bend the fins. If you happen to have the radiator support off of your Mini, you can also install the remaining silicone hoses onto the radiator support and install the whole bracket as a whole. It'll save you a ton of time, and then you can also do things like replace the coolant fan for good measure, as I did. Now, obviously I wouldn't recommend doing this if you don't need to, otherwise it would just take you way longer. Right, lines. Okay. And then once you're done, mix a little bit of BMW coolant with some distilled water. 50-50 is what they recommend. When refilling your coolant system, don't be an idiot like I was and fill your expansion tank too quickly. You'll want to make sure that you breathe it by hand pumping it on one of the hoses to make sure you're circulating coolant throughout the system. Make sure you run the car for a couple minutes with the cap off so that you are removing any air bubbles that might be in the system, so it's just pure coolant. As you may have noticed, my coolant setup has evolved to utilize a custom expansion tank, but that deserves an episode in and of itself, so stay tuned for that. And then you're good to go. Go out and enjoy driving. That's it. It's pretty straightforward. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment. Till next time, have a good one, guys.